take deep breaths at times. She's keeping her cool. Honestly, she didn't cry or anything like that. Obviously, early on in the testimony, there were some things that had her in tears.
As far as Diddy goes, Diddy, just like every other day, is very much participating in his defense, very much so passing off notes to his defense attorneys to kind of hand over to Estevao, who was standing up doing the questioning. He very much so was intently looking at either Cassie or the exhibits in front of him.
Okay, y'all, buckle up, because day 4 of the Diddy trial just went nuclear. And when I say nuclear, I mean courtroom chaos, jaws on the floor, and the moment the mask slipped off one of the most powerful men in the music industry. Because when Cassie Ventura took the stand and laid out the raw truth, and just like that, everyone went wild. Now, people inside the courtroom revealed how Diddy reacted. And if you expect some calm and still prideful demeanor from someone who denied all the nasty allegations against him, then you are totally wrong. Because real-time updates revealed that Diddy snapped after Cassie spilled everything that could put him behind bars. It got crazy. So much so that the security was allegedly ready to jump in and remove Diddy from court in case things got out of hand. Let's get started. The courtroom was already tense. That had been the usual description ever since this bombshell trial started. However, things reportedly escalated as people settled in for days of the Diddy case trial. As usual, reporters filled every available seat, but cameras weren't allowed inside. But you better believe phones were ready to blast the second something went down. Especially since everyone knew this was Cassie's big day, her most brutal, detailed testimony yet. But no one could have predicted what happened next. Well, this case was nothing but predictable in the first place. And ever since Cassie decided to take the witness stand, her revelation had shocked the whole world every single time. Now, a lot of people were curious how Cassie would fare, since we all know that her initial lawsuit included very graphic and nasty things about Diddy and their pretty toxic relationship. And being a witness means she'll have to relive all of that, not to mention that she is currently 8.5 months pregnant. As a result, most people think that testifying was not the best choice, but it seems like Cassie knew she needed to do something in order to take Diddy down. However, since no cameras are allowed, people around the globe relied on courtroom illustrations, and yup, it did confirm that Cassie is almost ready to pop. Moving on, she also surprised reporters with her calm reactions and interaction not only with her lawyer, but also with that of the defense. Cassie took the stand, looking with her hair pulled back, a simple blazer, and minimal makeup. But let me tell you, the words coming out of her mouth? Anything but calm. Which might have explained why Diddy almost lost it after hearing all her bombshell accusations. She started by describing the now infamous freakoffs. Okay, if you think you have heard everything about these crazy freakoffs, think again. Because the initial lawsuit Cassie filed is basically just the tip of the iceberg. Now, she is sharing more graphic and nasty details about what usually happens when Diddy is in the mood to do this freak off. And let's just say, it's not something a lady or anyone in general should endure. At the same time, Cassie's testimony revealed that these were not just some wild industry parties. Nope, there's something more sinister behind closed doors. And y'all, this just sheds more light on the truth of how shady Hollywood can be. Like, behind the glam and all the fancy clothes and get-togethers, dark realities are hidden from the public. Going back, Cassie painted a picture of coercion, control, and pain disguised as pleasure. She testified that these freak-offs weren't consensual group sex. They were orchestrated abuse. Now, take note that this is very important because the defense is currently establishing an image of Cassie as a willing partner. So her making sure that the jurors know she was not okay with these freak-offs is very vital to the case. Cassie continued and revealed how Diddy would take control of everything, to the point that he gets very specific about every single detail of what's going to happen. And yes, this involved making sure that she had little to no chance of going against his will. In her testimony, Cassie shared that Diddy would make sure she drank all night, then bring in male sex workers and force her to sleep with them while he watched, or worse, filmed everything. Now, this is where those infamous tapes come into play. I know a lot of people are wondering why Cassie decided to stay. Even the defense had been drilling Cassie about this. If the freak-offs were that bad, why did Cassie remain with Diddy all those years? Well, because Diddy has something to threaten her. Not only the physical abuse, but also videos of her in pretty compromising situations. And legal experts and the general public alike believe that, as young as Cassie was when this happened, she feared that her career and everything she worked hard for would just vanish because she decided to call it quits with Diddy. Which is true, because Diddy was one of the biggest names in the industry, and he can make or break someone with just one phone call. Now, Diddy is sitting, listening to all of this. And while initial reports suggested that he looked calm and collected, things took a drastic turn as Cassie continued with her testimony. According to reporters inside the New York City courthouse, Diddy was all the way locked in.
He very much so was intently looking at either Cassie or the exhibits in front of him, especially when it came to those sexually explicit text messages, or even just the text messages and the emails back and forth with one another. And so just like every other day, Diddy is very much so participating in his defense, because as the defense has pointed out a number of times, that Cassie is a very critical witness to the case.
Like, literally leaning over to read the live transcript of Cassie's words on a courtroom monitor. And not just watching, he was writing too, passing notes to his defense team like a high school student trying to change the grade on a pop quiz. Again, Cassie really got him shaking. And honestly, can you blame him, right? Because Cassie wasn't just sitting pretty. As mentioned before, Cassie was laying it all out, talking about the years of alleged manipulation and the infamous freak-offs that have now become the center of this explosive trial. And y'all, the courtroom was silent as she described how these parties went from shocking to routine, lasting 36, 48, even 72 hours. Yes, and Cassie did not stutter. She just casually dropped such a shocking detail about these infamous freak-offs. Like, how can someone do such horrible things for such a long time? Cassie also shared that she was staying up for days, taking drugs, and having sex with strangers. Eventually, it became a job for me, she said. I had the contacts, I set up the hotel rooms. There was no space to do anything else. Now this is the moment Diddy really started to react. Because while his legal team tried to paint her as a willing participant, Cassie said straight up, "This wasn't something I wanted to be doing." But more than that, she said something chilling, something that hit the jury hard. "I didn't know what no could turn into." Let that sink in. That's when Diddy started scribbling notes again, and not just casual notes like full-on passing paper down the row in church type of energy. And according to people in the room, he never took his eyes off that monitor, like laser-focused trying to find something he could send to his team. That's how invested he was, and understandably so. At the same time, people are saying that Diddy is starting to realize that Cassie is on to something. And if we take into consideration all the details Cassie had said about Diddy's obsessive and controlling nature, then his reactions are pretty expected. Like, for someone who spent decades controlling the narrative, this is not the story Diddy wanted to tell. Now, the defense tried to poke holes in her testimony. Legal experts are saying that they know what they need to do, and that is to make the jurors believe that Cassie is not as innocent as she seemed. She also wanted to be part of everything.
So they were trying to paint Cassie as less than perfect, which is kind of interesting because early in the morning, they were trying to paint her as she was a addict on her own. For example, they said she assaulted some of the security guards and got into a fight at a cousin's party. Now, they were saying prior bad acts, the prosecution was saying prior bad acts do not go to credibility, and they're asking to exclude in entirety. But there were text messages. She was in Connecticut, Cassie, at her brother's birthday party. Diddy was upset with her because she wasn't answering the phone.
So they showed text messages, ones where Cassie seemed eager, excited even. This includes personal, graphic, and explicit texts that Cassie allegedly sent to Diddy over a decade ago. One message from 2009 read, "I'm always ready to freak off. It can be whenever." Now, y'all already know the defense is trying to argue that Cassie was a willing participant in these so-called freak-offs. They're saying this wasn't some horror story. It was just two consenting adults living a wild celebrity lifestyle.
A big part of their case is trying to get this jury to believe that Cassie Ventura was a consenting adult in the sexual acts, these freak-offs that we've heard so much about during her direct testimony. So a lot of what the defense has been doing today during this cross-examination is showing text messages and getting Cassie Ventura to acknowledge that, according to these text messages, she was a willing participant in some of these freak-offs. But one of the things that we haven't done or haven't heard yet, Brianna, is the connection between those text messages in the early stages of the relationship and the violence that we heard so much about during the direct testimony yesterday.
But prosecutors, they're saying otherwise. They claim Diddy was orchestrating these sessions with escorts and sex workers, drugging Cassie, and using manipulation and control to get what he wanted. And now the defense is out here like, well, let's show the jury just how ready she was. More texts read, "I feel like I want to fuck. I'm so horny I can't concentrate," and a few more that are too graphic for us to include in this video. It's very clear that the defense also wants the jury to see Cassie as someone who was not only involved, but enthusiastic. They're trying to say this wasn't abuse, this was passion, that these freak-offs weren't coerced, they were coordinated. But here's where things get murky. Cassie explained that yes, those messages existed, but she said her participation was never about desire, it was about survival. She said she felt like she didn't have a choice, that saying no could lead to violence. She even testified that she was taught how to perform oral sex by Diddy early in the relationship, literally trained. Now, if that doesn't scream control, I don't know what does. But again, the defense is not having it and made sure to counter everything Cassie said, especially since Diddy is not really vibing with everything he was hearing. I bet at one point his defense is making sure their client stays as calm as possible. But then we have Daniel Phillip, a 41-year-old male escort who said he was entangled with Diddy and Cassie for about a year, starting in 2012. And the things he said on that stand had the courtroom shaking.
Well, the latest witness to take the stand today is a man named Daniel Phillips, and he was a male strip show manager. He would manage male strippers who would perform for things like bachelorette parties. But he said that he was paid to have sex with Cassie Ventura back in 2013 in a New York City hotel while Sean Diddy Combs allegedly sat in the corner, watched and masturbate during that testimony. Phillips, the second witness of the day, said he was told by his boss that he was going to perform at a bachelorette party at the Gramercy Park Hotel, but when he arrived, he saw Cassie in red lingerie and a red wig. He testified she said that they would rub baby oil on each other and would see where things would go from there while her husband was there.
He claimed he had sex with Cassie while Diddy watched, masturbated, and gave instructions, sometimes for an hour, sometimes for 10. One session even got so extreme, Cassie allegedly asked Phillip to urinate in her mouth. And y'all, prosecutors say she later told them she felt like she was choking during that encounter, and it wasn't her choice. Phillip admitted that he got paid thousands for each session, but he also revealed that after witnessing Diddy allegedly attack Cassie, he started having trouble performing sexually. And guess what? If he couldn't stay hard, he didn't get paid. So while the defense is digging up old texts to paint Cassie as some freaky seductress, the prosecution is pushing back hard with real trauma, disturbing patterns, and years of alleged control. But Cassie explained all that. She said those things to survive, to keep him calm, because when she said no, that's when things got violent.
You hungry pop. But I'm thinking, just from my perspective, that around those time frames, she was still relatively young. For the most part, she was in her early 20s. She was also asked about a previous relationship she had with another music producer named Ryan Leslie. And around this time frame, the defense was kind of saying, when you started dating him, you were 18, 19 years old.
And that's when everything changed. At one point, Cassie detailed a night in March 2018, Miami, a music event. Diddy wanted another session, but Cassie refused. She was sober that night, had an interview the next morning, and just wanted to go back to the hotel. And when she did, he followed. She told the jury that around 3 a.m. she heard pounding on the door. It was Diddy, drunk, furious. What happened next had the courtroom frozen. Cassie said he forced his way in, threw her on the bed, and sexually assaulted her. She begged him to stop, told him he was hurting her. And what did he say? "This is what you deserve for embarrassing me." 2 jurors flinched. 1 court reporter actually looked away. It was that graphic, that disturbing. But it didn't stop there, because then came the receipts. Cassie's lawyer produced medical records from the next morning, bruises on her thighs, wrists, and neck, photos, time-stamped urgent care reports. And the cherry on top? Security footage shows Diddy outside her hotel room at 3:17 a.m. But wait, there's more, because this ain't the first time Cassie was pursued without her consent. There is more. Because just when you thought things couldn't get any darker, Cassie dropped another bomb in court that had the whole courtroom holding its breath. Cassie told the court it was supposed to be a magical night where she would enjoy herself in the presence of the one and only prince. She was out having dinner with friends when she got the invite. It was a once-in-a-lifetime experience, she said. And honestly, who would pass that up, right? But here's where it takes a dark turn. Cassie didn't even tell Diddy she was going. Why? Because she already knew the deal. She told the jury he would have said no. Period. And from what we've heard in this trial, his no came with threats, control, and consequences. At this point, I think we can all agree that we can already see the clear pattern of how Diddy would react whenever Cassie does not follow his orders. Cassie said she arrived at Prince's house and immediately clocked some BET executives. That part was fine, until she heard that Diddy had shown up too. And y'all, the fear in her voice as she described what happened next? Chilling.
Cassie detailed a horrible experience that she had when she attended a party at Prince's house. This was an exclusive party that she did not want to miss, but she also knew she couldn't tell Diddy because he would never allow her to go. So she went anyways. Prince apparently was performing in his basement for everyone there. The party took place at his LA home, and while she was there with her friends, Diddy showed up. She said that when she saw him, she bolted because she knew that he was going to be absolutely pissed that she went to something that he did not want her to go to. She said she ran as fast as she could. She remembers tripping over a bush as she was trying to get out. And then when she was back at the hotel later, Diddy caught up with her and gave her a beating.
She told the courtroom she caught a glimpse of Diddy across the party. One look. That was enough, because she knew that look, the face he made when he was about to snap. According to Cassie, "I knew he was angry at me." And then, "He came after me," she said, and that was one of the most horrifying things she had ever said. I bet people inside the courtroom felt that. Because of this, Cassie said she took off running. No warning, no explanation. Just pure panic. Cassie also told the jury she literally ran out of the party, full sprint, heels and all, and ended up falling face first into the bushes out front. It was a full-blown escape scene without her thinking about what other people might think. But the nightmare didn't end there. Somehow, she made it back to the Beverly Hills hotel where she was staying, probably thinking she had dodged a bullet, until she didn't. Because not long after, Cassie says Diddy burst into her room like something out of a horror movie. She told the court, "We went into the bedroom and he beat me up." Yes. Despite clearly saying she had nothing to do with Diddy that night, Puff did not listen and just did what he wanted to do. She claims he was yelling, throwing her luggage at her, and calling her every name in the book. And this wasn't a one-time blow-up. This, according to Cassie, was just one of many times Diddy exploded on her behind closed doors. Now remember, this wasn't some random couple fight. Cassie and Diddy were in a relationship for 11 years. 11 years of alleged manipulation, fear, and abuse. And we already heard so much during this trial. But this moment at Prince's house, it wasn't just some dramatic Hollywood story. Prosecutors are using it to show a pattern that Cassie was constantly living in fear, that she couldn't make decisions for herself without worrying about Diddy's reaction, and that his power and control extended way beyond closed doors. And let's be real, the fact that she had to run from Prince's house to escape Diddy, that says everything. The prosecution is doing their utmost best to clap back at the defense, showing every piece of evidence they have to convince the court and the jurors that Cassie is not a willing participant. And the most chilling part? That wasn't the last time she said he found her, cornered her, or hurt her. This is only a few stories from the endless list of nasty things Cassie had to endure, and her testimonies continue to reveal Diddy's true nature. The defense scrambled, but it got worse. See, up until now, Diddy's whole defense team was working overtime to spin this narrative that Cassie was a willing participant.
So today, the defense get time with Cassie, and they're focusing in on their narrative, and it could be true, but their narrative is that Cassie was a willing participant, okay? Like, she wasn't forced to do anything she didn't want to do. And they talked about some text messages today that outlines that maybe she was a willing participant, okay?
That everything that happened between them, even the darkest, nastiest stuff, was all part of a consensual, high-risk, celebrity-fueled lifestyle. You know, the usual, it was freaky but mutual defense. They kept pointing to those explicit text messages, the party trips, trying to build this image that Cassie liked the freakoffs, that she wasn't some victim, she was just down for the ride. And for a minute, some folks did start questioning, because the defense kept bringing up those old messages. They used that stuff in court to paint a picture of a woman who was just as into the chaos as Diddy was. But here's where things fall apart. Because of those messages, they don't exist in a vacuum. The defense wanted to show Cassie as this wild, free-spirited woman just living it up with a music mogul. But the prosecution has been slowly, methodically peeling back that fantasy, and what's underneath is disturbing. We're talking about a pattern, a clear, documented pattern of manipulation, coercion, and straight-up threats. This wasn't about two people engaging in edgy behavior for fun. This was about control, fear, power. And if that wasn't enough, there's more. Suddenly, it's not just about Cassie's texts anymore. It's about a pattern, a system. One man at the top using fear and influence to orchestrate whatever he wanted and making sure nobody ever dared to talk. So now, that original defense, the one where they tried to make it look like Cassie was just bitter and clout chasing? Yeah, that thing is crumbling. It's hard to spin it like a sexy lifestyle when there's evidence showing she was terrified, isolated, backed into a corner. And you can bet the jury felt that shift too. Because before that tape played, maybe there was still some doubt. Maybe some folks were still on the fence. But once that evidence hit the airwaves, once Diddy's voice echoed through that courtroom, everything changed. And this trial, it's only getting started. Let's not forget Cassie's paper trail. She brought everything: texts to friends, medical records, hotel footage, and recordings. This wasn't, he said, she said. This was, he said, and here's the proof. Even Diddy's past accusers started trending again, like Don Richard from Danity Kane, who sued him last year for assault and financial abuse. And let's not forget the lawsuits from other women, all describing similar patterns: control, coercion, threats, and freak-offs. Y'all, this isn't just about Cassie anymore. It's about a pattern. Even prospective jurors during selection admitted they didn't trust Diddy. One was dismissed after saying, "He's rich enough to buy his way out of anything." Another got cut because he said he couldn't go 8 weeks without smoking weed. But let's focus on the first guy. People already don't believe Diddy's innocence. And now, they've seen him blow up in court. They've heard him on tape. They've watched him lose it when his secrets were exposed. And the internet is buzzing with comments. One fan wrote, "Poor girl. She's been through real hell, but luckily she survived." While another added, "The sad thing is that no one would have believed her if the hotel video footage of Diddy beating her would never have been released." And don't forget, Cassie's pregnant, 8.5 months along. This woman, standing in front of the court, swollen with a child, details her trauma while her abuser screams across the room. That hits the jury differently. It hits the public differently, and it's already creating sympathy waves. Her husband, Alex Fine, sat in the courtroom taking notes, glasses on, eyes close to the screen, watching every word. And when Cassie said she once asked him if he could take care of the kids without her because she'd thought about walking into traffic, you could see it on his face. Pain, rage, love. That's the man she built her healing with. That's the life she fought to reclaim. Meanwhile, Diddy's sitting there drenched in sweat, tie crooked, eyes wild, from Hollywood mogul to courtroom meltdown in 60 seconds. And let me tell you, the jury saw it all. By the time the court adjourned, people were shaken. Cassie's family hugged her tightly. Diddy's legal team looked like they'd aged 10 years. Reporters rushed out to file breaking news alerts. The moment Diddy lost control wasn't just dramatic, it was historic. It was the exact moment he stopped being untouchable. And this trial? It's only just begun. But what do you guys think? Let us know in the comments below, and make sure to stick around for more updates.